We are live. The return of Tree Lions TV Euros. Euros edition.
Can you explain why it's been a return? What have you been doing, Liam?
I've been making music videos, bro.
True.
Bullshit.
True.
We made a music video about 6 weeks ago.
True. And then what about you, Will? What about you?
I've been to Stasiland.
Okay, you're in the Stasiland, which is translation for
Lazy Ken.
Lazy Ken,
Which is also translation for Lazy Ken.
2 hours later.
But anyway, return of Three Lions TV for the Euros, which has now been going on for about a week and a half. Two gameplays have been played. It's been
gameplay?
Yeah, gameplay.
Yeah.
The fuck is gameplay? Are you watching FIFA?
So yeah, second, we're here the morning after the shite before. England. England last night, not the best, although I can't remember too much, but I was actually slightly kind of gone. Yeah, I had four cans, bro.
To that, I've never seen him so lively in the last 6 months of living with him. So
you didn't miss much.
That's what I needed.
You didn't miss much. You didn't remember it because it was a game of shite.
You were like shouting at every time Sterling wasn't making a full
I was just
run.
to be fair,
insane.
I was just trying to wind everyone up so that people would be, getting on the Grealish bandwagon as well. I was just hating on everything Foden or Sterling did. Oh, just get him off, get Grealish on, and it worked. By half time, you were saying it as well. Oh, get him on. Although to be fair, he didn't even do that much when he came on.
He passed it directly to a Scotland player.
I'm not happy. Well, that one's true. I'm not happy
to the sidelines.
Is misplacing passes.
No, that was like directly to the player. I didn't even see if there was any white shirts around him. And then he does it 10 minutes later to some guy with a fucking bib on.
No, I'm not having
He's
that
a
one.
blind
So the commentators chat.
Well, let's not get caught into Grealish hype again. This is a Three Lions TV podcast, not a Grealish podcast.
A little bit of Grealish hype. So,
let's at least start with the match.
Yeah.
I mean, also we should mention Croatia. I don't think we got too hyped about Croatia anyway, despite the win. We thought that was kind of masking a lot of problems, which then have been identified in the Scotland match.
Yeah.
Obviously we think our midfield is too defensive and too crabby.
Yeah, I mean that's the main takeaway. I think what was annoying was the reaction of the general media to the win against Croatia. The reality was Croatia were very poor. I know their team's good on paper, but watching the game, they created nothing and they weren't good, Croatia. And we weren't particularly good either. That game we started well. And it was the usual thing where we started quite well, and then it was teetering away, and it wasn't going well. By the time we scored at the perfect time because we weren't playing well at that point. And I felt like the game was just beginning to turn, and it papered over the cracks a lot. And then people were coming out afterwards saying, "Oh, it was an amazing win, and everything," and a lot of pundits were saying, "Let's name an unchanged team." And that was the problem. We shouldn't have named an unchanged team because against Scotland, you don't need Rice and Phillips, and he kept them on for the whole game, and that was. I don't
like how pundits look at one game as a win, and they're like, "All right, let's continue that." Like every game's different, you know. Like I don't believe that Croatia team was as good as the last one we played at the World Cup. You know, they had a lot of young players in their defence. They really only had the 3 people in their midfield.
Yeah, I mean their team's good on paper. But you got to go.
But it's not better than England. It's nowhere near better than England.
They weren't good. They didn't play
against Czech Republic. They weren't that good either.
No.
They've dropped off as a team. Even Kramaric, Rebic, and what's that? Perisic. They're not as good as they used to be anymore.
Modric either. Yeah.
Modric is not as good as he used to be anymore.
Yeah.
Brozovic has a part-time role at Chelsea. Obviously, Brozovic is still, probably their best midfielder at the moment. But and then you look at the young players they had,
Gvardiol, Seletic.
And then what's that? The goalkeeper they had,
Yeah, I never heard of him.
But again, we as a team should be doing better against Croatia. There is no reason we should be setting up with 2 defensive midfielders against Croatia.
So who do you play instead of though? Who comes in then?
We should have 1 DM. There was no reason to have 2
DMs.
DMs.
You're talking about against Croatia?
Even against Croatia, I thought we should have done.
But I mean, his team made a bit more sense given it was against Croatia because we expected them to dominate the ball, and so he wanted, having 2 more defensive-minded midfielders in that game wasn't so much of an issue. And actually, Calvin Phillips attacked quite well. He was probably the best player in that game, although I think it was a one-off and people got a bit carried away by that performance. But against Scotland, I think we were saying this in podcasts in the first few episodes, against teams like Scotland, you can afford to play the likes of Mount and Foden in midfield, not out on the wings.
You could just see though, when we picked up the ball, just after our halfway line, There was just no. There just was.
No
It was so
movement.
slow.
There's
No
no
movement.
movement
No
at
one
all.
progressing the ball forward. I mean, and no wonder Kane, I don't think, has had a very good first 2 games. We always look too slow and passive, and the problem is this is on purpose. This is Southgate's tactics. He wants to be slow. He wants to be patient.
Because he's always thinking about getting open up the other way.
Exactly.
He's thinking
He's
defensively.
conservative. He's a conservative manager.
So I mean, but is there positives to take from it? You know, we haven't conceded a goal. You know, we knew we were going to play like this. It was never going to be the incredible tiki-taka, whatever fucky-faka football that like we talked about. It was always going to be this quite patient, passive play with, you know, we predicted this midfield from ages ago. You know, whether it's Henderson or whether it's Rice, it's always going to be a 3 with Mount being your most creative player, which is never going to be, you know, scintillating
The
football.
problem I have now is when you have a conservative manager, does he really believe we'll win a tournament even with the best players?
Yes. I mean,
I don't think he does. I think
Southgate obviously thinks he can win this tournament playing the way he is.
I don't think he does. I think
But
he'll
you
get.
don't think Southgate thinks he can win the
No,
tournament?
not the way he plays. I don't think he has enough. He doesn't give enough confidence. He doesn't have enough confidence in the players we have to attack games.
Yeah, but wait. Are you saying Southgate doesn't think he can win the Euros?
No. I think he thinks there's a possibility that England could win. But what will happen is we'll play a bigger team like a France or a Germany or whatever, lose, and they'll be like, well, you know, you look at the players they have. We can't match that level. You see that kind of scapegoating kind of like, you know, talk that he always does. Always tries to play us down. We're a good team, and we should be playing to attack from the get-go.
Yeah,
we should be on level of a
agree with
France. The difference with France and us, we said this yesterday, there isn't much of a difference, but, you know, they play quite negative. They've got a negative manager.
Well, France do, yeah.
But they have Mbappe, and Mbappe does, you know, cause trouble, and he's a
He can make
special
the
player. He
difference,
makes
yeah.
the difference. But it's annoying when you see that. You're like, well, you know, if we just upped our gear a bit, we could punish teams.
I mean,
I think the one thing you could say though is so far the disappointment was against Scotland. If you're looking at the Croatia game and Scotland game and someone told you drew one of those and you won one of those, you would have expected us to draw against Croatia and to beat Scotland. But the fact it's the other way around means I do think the way Southgate plays works probably better against bigger teams. But the problem is he just doesn't know how to set up against the smaller teams. So it'll be interesting next game to find out against Slovakia. Is he going
Czech
to?
Republic.
Is he going
Racism
to?
alert! Red alert! 21 cancel him!
Is he going to actually, you know, play two creative players
I
in
think the
midfield?
system,
Is he going to change it
the
up?
system won't change. If it'll be personnel, it'll be Henderson maybe coming in. I could easily see that. I'd like to see, you know, a Bellingham come in instead. I know you're hyping on Henderson, but I think Bellingham.
No.
I think
I'm
Bellingham-
deservedly giving Henderson.
Who's done nothing for a season, had one good season for Liverpool.
No, that is bullshit.
That's not bullshit. Tell me that isn't
that
true.
is underplaying the attributes, the
You
value
can't
of
bring
Henderson
him in
our
just
team.
because he's a leader. Like
He's
that's
not-
not
no,
going to
no.
mean that we transition the ball, you know, quicker and faster. He's the same type of player.
He's not. You're understating the player Henderson is in the team. He isn't just a leader. He brings that alongside the other qualities he has in the
I'm saying,
team.
but are you saying that if we bring Henderson into the team, that's gonna we're gonna suddenly look like a progressive, passing, attacking, exciting football?
I think it would help with the midfield. I don't think that, but I think especially with how crabby the midfield is, and we're taking less risks on the ball in the midfield. I think having someone like Henderson with that leadership, with that character, with that, with the know-how in the big situations, with his ability on the ball as well, I think he will motivate the other midfielders around him to make space. He does that a lot with Liverpool. We have more creative and technical players around Henderson, like Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Thiago. But you need Henderson in that middle, orchestrating everything.
I don't think he'll make
Maybe,
a
maybe.
world of difference,
No,
but
yeah.
I would change it up. For example, what have you played Bellingham and Henderson as the two midfielders instead of Rice
Oh, he loves Rice,
and Phillips?
Rice
and
and
you
now
played
are in
like
there.
Grealish and give Sancho a go as well on the other
No,
wing, and then
I
Foden in attacking mid. Change it all up. Give
He
it a
won't
go.
do. Isn't that? You know, there's two debates here.
That would be a more exciting team though. I think Bellingham and Henderson would give you more legs. They can do a little bit more going forwards in midfield, and then you have change up the wingers. They've not been good so far. So give Grealish a go on the left, give Sancho a go. He doesn't like Sancho at all. He never gives him any chances.
He's not even in there at all.
But around Europe, everyone knows he's one of the best young players in Europe, and Southgate can't get anything out of him.
I do think we've got to be careful of how many young players we pop into a team, into the whole team against in the Euros, because as you've seen with Foden, Mount, Foden and Mount. When they're not playing well, they start to go silent. They need a character around them, someone a more senior member of the team to really bring that game out of them. I wouldn't, if you chuck in a Sancho in there all of a sudden, or a Saka, and they start to go quiet. Then you have a whole team like that. Reece James was a bit quiet yesterday as well.
I don't know about quiet. What do you mean quiet? Like not talking? Or
No. Just his performance wasn't.
But then everyone was quiet. Kane was the most quiet player on the pitch, and he's the most experienced player. I wouldn't just look at the young players and say they've been quiet. Everyone's been poor.
No, but it's funny because I know you were quite critical of Sterling yesterday, but the one thing I took from Sterling yesterday was he was still quite. He was still quite busy. He was still trying things.
The one thing Sterling has been busy. He's been, he's always. I felt like he's been trying.
Yeah, and I think that comes from being a senior member playing at the highest level, that he knows that this is his responsibility and he needs to create things,
I mean, it wasn't a penalty, I don't think, but it's like that, in a game like that, it's Sterling who, just gets clipped on his foot and goes down.
Yeah.
It's like Sweden had done in the previously that day. It was a dead game, an absolutely dead game, but they got a penalty and they won. And sometimes that's just what you need to scrape through against Sweden, against whoever they played.
I mean, I've seen those penalties given. That's why I was like, well, yeah, if it's contact, then yeah.
But I mean, I guess there are still positives to take. Like as you said, we're against a big team. Other big teams haven't. Name me another apart from Italy. There's no other big team that's really blown the tournament apart.
No, you're right. But my fear is the way if Southgate will adapt. I think a draw and a win is okay for now, but against Czech Republic, he will need to use his nous and be like, okay, cool, we need some more creativity in the midfield. But I don't have the confidence in him to do that.
No, I don't.
If he keeps playing that 2 in the DM and plays the same system every game, which he might do, then.
No, he will make changes though. After that last performance, he will make a couple changes.
He'll make a couple of changes, but again, it'll be personnel, and it may even, we might even see a 5 at the back or something.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be
I don't think he'd do a 5.
I don't see why he would, but I could see something like that. That wouldn't shock me. But it's not going to, what he won't do is play like a one sitting and 2 attacking midfielders. I don't see that.
I got something else to talk about. Do you think it was weird that he took off Kane but brought on Rashford as a striker?
Yes, I do.
Because he hasn't played as a striker in ages. And if you're Calvert-Lewin, you'd be thinking like, why am I here if I am literally your other option as a striker. He was the backup to Kane. And then when we actually need a goal, he takes off Kane. He brings on someone who's not played up front for 2 years.
Which, by the way, didn't work in the Croatia game. He did the same. So Kane has come off in 70-something minute in Croatia and against Scotland. I mean, that's strange.
What I didn't mind about Rashford coming on, and I didn't want Calvert-Lewin altogether in the team. If Kane's not performing well, I don't see what Calvert-Lewin offers instead.
He's an aerial threat, though. He's got a really good leap on him.
Kane is quiet. But Kane is quiet. If Kane's not doing it, then I think
I think the problem when Kane, world-class striker, if he goes quiet, you need to change the system. I don't think you should take him on. I agree with that. It's such a we used to say this about Steve Bruce, such a dinosaur manager thing to do. Oh, my striker's not playing well. New striker, same striker though. You need to change your system.
No, the issue is, like you say, he didn't actually change up. The main problem was the system, and he was just making like-for-like changes.
Yeah, so of course Rashford's not going to do anything. The only thing I liked about having Rashford instead of Calvert-Lewin as a positive is he's just something a bit different. He has a bit more pace on him. But he was quiet. He was quiet.
I literally can't remember what he did. I mean, Rashford, in the end, Rashford and Grealish didn't change the game. I mean, I'm not saying, that's really hard to do, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. I'm trying to think of any other takeaways.
Well, one shout out to Gary Neville. Fucking hell. So he commented after the game that there was no problem with personnel or tactics. That was his verdict. Well, what's the problem then?
But do you know what? I think he has this. It is the bias of being in the England camp before.
Yeah, it's that, and again, I've said it's because he's friends with him. They were in the same team as each other. He's standing up for a mate. And after the Croatia game, he was the one, when I say about pundits getting carried away, he was one, we've got our most important person in the whole England setup is the manager. Like, you know, he's so crucial, and we need to tie him down for 3 or 4 years. Like after one win against Croatia, saying all this nonsense, and then when he comes up with a poor performance like that yesterday, he tries to deflect from any blame for the manager. Oh, it's not the tactics, it's not this, it's the players are tired. It's like if he was talking about a top 4 Prem team that put in that performance, he would be slating the manager's tactics, and he's not doing it. You have to ask why. It's because it's his mate. I'm sick of these pundits just backing their mates in the media.